outlaw. Half Cherokee and Choctaw. My baby, she's a Chippewa. She's a one of a kind. All my friends call me
All right, Fighting Irish Faithful. Welcome to episode 12 of season 4, volume 98. And Notre Dame's taking on the Chippewas of Central Michigan. And what I'm not too looking. It's kind of a weird game because it's like everyone's already clearly looking forward to Ohio State. But before we go down that road, thank you for joining me. This is the Fighting Irish Faithful show. This is Joe at faithful_Irish on the Twitter. And we are powered by Scotch and Spreadsheet on Leprechauns Media. This is episode 12, volume 98. So 2 more to go before we hit that century mark. And it was mentioned earlier that we were going to do this show, the preview of the Central Michigan show. We will not have a post-game show versus what we normally do. I have other stuff going on this week, and hence why we're starting tonight's show on a Tuesday at 11:45 at night. So other stuff's going on right now, and so we're gonna put this podcast in here so you guys get it, and with the intent that we will come back in a week, do the Ohio State pregame show, and then the century mark will be the postgame show. So hopefully that's good. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Happy for all of our loyal listeners and for the unloyal people who are not joining tonight. I'm just kidding. It's really late. Although you West Coast people, where are you guys at? Come on. Like, what are you guys doing, right? Clearly you're doing other things and not scrolling social media, which is just perfectly fine. Well, the Irish are 3-0, which is fantastic. It's exactly where we should be, where we ought to be, given everyone we have played. And the NC State game, though, started off a little concerning. Eventually, there was no doubt. And Notre Dame clearly came out, dominated, kicked ass, took some names, and I was able to talk some yang on Twitter to some NC State people. Won't name names here. We don't need to do that because the scoreboard and all of that did the talking, and that's really all we have to worry about. So, but we have a home game, and then we have another home game against Ohio State. But first and foremost, the Chippewas. So we'll just jump straight into some stats here because that's what we do, Scotch and Spreadsheets. First, before we go any further, we are using a Kirkland blended Scotch whiskey. It's not the fancy one. It's the $20 one. So there we go. Cheers to that. Now, I don't know where Red Snapper is tonight. You know, he's busy doing other stuff, clearly, instead of being co-host. But where you at, co-host? Whatever. But anyway, the Chippewas. So, look, the best part about this game is that Marcus Freeman is starting to separate himself as our head coach. He now has a 70% win percentage, a .706, by coaching as many games as he has 12 wins, 5 losses attributed to him, versus his opponent coach, Jim McElwain, which I learned was actually the head coach at Florida for a bit, which was kind of interesting. But anyway, at Central Michigan, he is a 52% win percentage and 58% as a head coach for his career. In addition to that, Central Michigan's recruiting is ranked not the worst, not the second worst. It's the third worst of what we have faced so far. Or is that second best of what we have faced so far? I don't know. But either way, Central Michigan, their recruiting is 94th. On average over the last 4 years, versus Notre Dame still is maintaining 11.5. So clearly better coach, better win percentage, better team, better recruiting abilities and players, quite frankly, in addition to just the other spreadsheet usual pieces that we will get to. Well, believe it or not, we actually have someone who has joined us tonight. This is fantastic. Uncle June at Justin Cates on the Twitter. You've been invited to speak. If you wish to join us, if you can, that would be awesome. Welcome back to the Fighting Irish Faithful Show.
Hey, get to that Etsy store, you know. What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's so funny. I was listening to an older show, Justin, and I remember it was one of the first ones that you joined, and you were plugging the Etsy store for us, which was fantastic. And then I went and looked at the Etsy store right now. It actually looks really sad. So, and I think
maybe I was born to be like a QVC anchor. I don't know. I feel like I sort of have gifts for it.
You know what's funny is like I got a toddler in the house, right? So he's very aware of stuff, and like Halloween coming around, and like as much as like I can appreciate Halloween, I really don't like commercials for scary movies, right? Especially with a toddler. And so
like The Nun.
It doesn't matter.
Have you seen the one for The Nun? Holy crap!
I close my eyes. Gee whiz, that's just that's not my bag. Like look, I've seen some quote unquote scary movies. Like I actually think The Ring is a fantastic movie, and it freaks the hell out of a lot of other people.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a great film. It's great. It's iconic. Like. And we even went back, this is a couple years ago, but we're like, we should watch some of these like classic quote unquote horror movies. And we watched the first Friday the 13th and the first Halloween. And we were like, this is a little toned down from what you would expect today. But a lot of those themes, that anticipation, what have you, were like, okay, let's go about and do this. So, but like, compared to today, and now that I got a toddler in the house and he sees the TV and stuff, and so it's one of those things like avert your eyes or whatever. Anyway, the point I was making is the I'm trying to just change the channel, but it's not like the old days where it immediately changes, like the cable box has to like think about it. And so it took forever to go to the next channel. What's funny is I think we were watching like Sunday Night Football or something. The next channel up, when I just hit the channel up button, was actually QVC.
And old Uncle June was on there talking about a knife, like a knife set. You can get 127 knives for $16.99. This deal is not going to last. Okay,
watch us cut this hose.
I can cut through a frozen tube of beef. And then I can cut a peach right in half.
That's right. Look at us.
Am I supposed to be impressed? I don't know. Is that something?
Yep. When will I need to cut my tomatoes paper thin?
I don't know. I hope not ever. I like a little girth in my tomatoes.
Yeah, that's right. When I make salsa, there's some body to it. I will say that. So.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Well, thank you for joining the show tonight. We might be a little light with our Midwest and East Coast people, but hopefully our Arizona, I don't know what time zone you guys are in right now, and our Pacific people can jump on. It's really late over here, and we, like I said earlier, we've got some unusual things going on with my life right now, but which is fine. Like everything's fine. It's just different, right? And to the point where we're not going to do a post-game show this Saturday because there's priorities. That being said, what do you think of the Chippewas?
Well,
the football team, not the native tribe.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you reframed that. I do feel differently about them.
Agreed. Yeah, those are two very different topics. Thing, yeah. Like. Yeah. One has probably casinos and, yeah, let's go. Another one, kill them.
Yeah. You know what? I love that we have this opportunity to sort of, I don't want to call it a tune-up because, like Al Golden said something today in their press conference, they'll chuck it around a little bit,
Yeah, a little bit.
I think it'll be good, but I really like... I say it's a tune-up game, but, Brian Kelly's gone, and I'm so glad that I'm looking at the field, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, like Christian Gray's playing. Meaningful snaps. Like, we have young freshman players playing, and young guys playing meaningful snaps. And I think that's so clutch. I think this Saturday we'll get a bunch more. We're going to run the damn ball. You know how we do. And I think we get a lead. I think we get some things dialed in, and then I think we end up dominating that game. I think that, I don't know, man. I really like this defense, I really like this. I mean, I think the offensive line, I think there's a lot of stuff they can sort of clean up. But it's nice to be able to say that when you stomp North Carolina State on their field, and you can still say, well, we sort of didn't play very well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that we'll probably make pretty light work of the football team, the Chippewas. I'm sure that the tribe is much more fierce. So I wouldn't want to be, But I think, it'll be a nice. We don't get these games, I feel like, generally.
No, and I don't.
We never get them right test.
Yeah, and I don't think we're gonna get much more, for the rest of the season, right? Unless one of these other teams craters. I mean, like Stanford's not looking very impressive right now, and some of these other, teams that are potentially coming down the road, or their schedule can landslide on them. Whatever we think, I mean, if we jump over to teamrankings.com, right, the statistically most likely outcome is a 10-2 regular season. They are ranking Central Michigan as the quote easiest game left on the schedule, then Stanford, then Wake, then Pitt. Now, fortunately, I will be going to the Wake and the Pittsburgh game, the Wake game with Red Snapper as well, and the Pittsburgh game with 5 Foot Nothing Pod, which is cool. But anyway, the Central Michigan game, it's and we already talked about their coach, their recruiting and whatnot. They are the most quote unquote inferior team remaining on the schedule. And we do have the statistical highest probability of winning, right? Versus them, versus, everybody else. So, I'm very excited for where this team goes, but at the same time, let me ask you this, Justin. Is it wrong to overlook Central Michigan and start looking towards Ohio State?
Well, the coaches can say whatever they want. There is a little bit of Ohio State game planning going on right now. But what I think you can do, sort of, that you don't always get a chance to in the season is like, if you're like, there's, a lot of coach speak. It's like, hey, we just need to do what we're going to do, and no one will beat us. Which is like sort of true. Like, hey, if we just play the way we can play, then we're not worried about someone else. Marcus will say things like that. This is like a good week for that. So, and you can sort of mix in some prep, but Central Michigan is a team that where if you go and you say, you know what, we're going to do these 3 things we really do well on offense, and we're going to do these 3 things we really do well on defense, you're going to stomp them if you're focused. Oh, yeah. So I feel like you can sort of do both, where in this week you can really just say, hey, what are we going to do great? And let's sort of do that this week, but, in a way, start moving towards next week. So I think there's a way to sort of do both. I think really good coaches always find a way, and it doesn't have to be like, Marcus Freeman didn't have to go in front of the microphone and be like, we're terrified the Chippewas are going to stomp us and what we're going to do. And, but there's a way to just say, hey, listen, like I really like I think Coach Freeman is so, it's like he should be a motivational speaker. Like he knows how to motivate. And he brings up like we have 12 guaranteed opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like that's a great motivating tool, especially in a week like this. Like, hey, we only get 12 all year. You work your butt off all year long. You got 12. So here's one. So I know you want to think your mind wants to start going to, bringing the Buckeyes in town, but let's take care of, 4 before we get to game 5.
Yeah.
But let's do it in a way where we can sort of get focused.
I appreciate that because, like, part of me, especially in the off season, I miss Notre Dame football, and I have to remind myself that I need to cherish every game. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, you want to get amped up and eat nachos or wings or whatever you do at home and, you know, smash shots of Jameson and drink beer and, you know, just, enjoy the game. But then it's like part of you kind of wishes you didn't, because then if you were a little more coherent, you could actually really like focus on the game and absorb more of it rather than just kind of swim through it like mentally in a, you know, stupor fog. You know what I'm saying? With this,
for sure.
With this game, and don't get me wrong, like, first one to admit that happens, number one, and number two, who am I to judge? The point I'm making is, look, we do only have 12 guaranteed games, ideally 13, 14. You know, that's clearly the goal. We should cherish this, and these are specific weeks of the year out of a 52-week year, not including, you know, spring game, which is, quite frankly, a glorified practice. The point I'm making is we should be grateful for the Central Michigan game and accept it for what it is. And, you know, does it have earth-shattering impact on the season? The answer is, of course, no, as long as we win and win by a decent margin.
Yeah.
Because, quite frankly, I put in the same, you know, sphere as Navy and the Tennessee State game, because, look, it's a quote-unquote lower-level team with inferior talent. There's no reason why we shouldn't, you know, stomp them and soundly. I mean, we're favored in this game by a sizable margin. I mean, the spread, this is the biggest it's been all season. It's 34 points. You know, and so like Notre Dame has been averaging, you know, a scoring margin of 37 and putting up 47 points. So if I just do some quick math on that, you know, 47 to, you know, 13, right? That gets us at 37 points, right? So, or 34 point margin, right? So I'm not giving that as a prediction. That's just kind of more of a math thing. But fans should not overlook this team. I think it's okay to like have the anticipation over the gravity of the situation. Like, okay, we got to get through this week healthy, because the game that really matters first, other than the NC State game last week, the next one is Ohio State. But I think that it's okay to cherish this one, to enjoy this one, and to embrace this one, because we love watching Notre Dame. You know, if someone handed you a VHS tape of like, hey, there's this long lost Notre Dame game that no one has ever seen, you know, you want to watch it? What would your answer be, Justin?
Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's driving? How are we watching it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've got a VCR in the basement here. I'll go dust that sucker off and, you know, plug it into the old big box TV that is also down there, which is still down. The doc, it's so funny. The doc asked me, why do we still have this? I'm like, no, don't get rid of that. She's like, why? I'm like, because I want a Nintendo and we're going to get a Zapper, and the Zapper will work with that. She just like gives me this dirty look. Like, it wasn't a dirty look, but it was like a, are you serious look? I'm like,
of course,
look,
you're serious.
Of course I'm serious. I've thought this through, right? I don't keep crap lying around the house, you know?
It's also, it's in your basement, you said?
It is in my basement.
Dude, some of those TVs are like 1,000 pounds. It's shocking how much
so
they
heavy. Yeah.
I'm like, what did they make this of?
I don't know. Bricks and,
it's like
you know,
got Blake
lead.
Fisher sitting on like Blake Fisher TV, just sitting on your, you know, an entertainment center. It's like, oh, it's down here.
When it's awkward, like the mass is not like in the middle. It's like in the front by the screen, you know, because it's made out of like solid thick glass. Like I remember when, like this is years ago when, you know, I must have been, high school, junior high, I don't know what. And my dad was cleaning out the office, and going through some old stuff, and he's like, hey, we're gonna get rid of the old computer monitor because we got a flat screen right now. And he's like, I'm just gonna throw this away, recycle it, whatever. And so I'm like, can I have fun with this? He's like, just don't make a big mess, right? And so I'm like, tight. So I go get the hockey stick and a hockey puck, and I take slap shot after slap shot at the computer screen. Now, maybe this is a question of my hockey skills or just the robustness of the computer monitor screen. That fucker did not break. All I did was put some marks in it.
That's over engineering. We don't do that anymore.
Oh my gosh. Despite the fact that it was quote unquote Energy Star rated, that shit would not break. I'm just like, I'm literally beating this thing with a hockey stick. And like, it just got to the point where I took the stick and went up and hit it, and it still didn't break. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to go get a bat and rocks and pellet guns and start, turning this into a, some sort of YouTube channel, Discovery Channel.
Are you telling me it earned your respect?
No, I'm not.
It was a worthy opponent.
Trust me, that monitor had so much respect out of the hours and hours of computer screen time I had given it playing, educational games, to NHL Hockey 96, to the original Need for Speed, to Oregon Trail, like you name it. Shit from the mid 90s got all sorts of, screen time. With that monitor. So this was the way to send it off with some fun. And so away it went. But anyway, I don't know why we're talking about big computer monitors. Back to this game. Do you do you think we see much of Hartman and our first stringers in the second half?
Probably not. I hope we see a lot of them going viral for making obscene gestures, sending in play calls. I hope that's
I saw
how we see them most. But I
mean, it didn't look like it was. Let me put it this way: I saw Hartman doing his thing. I never saw anything that "quote unquote" looked inappropriate, but maybe I need to look at it with fresh eyes. I don't know.
You know what? Like you said, it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder,
right?
So you never know. But this is a game where you can sort of challenge those guys and say, "Let's get you out of the game. Like, let's play for these younger guys and these walk-ons. Let's get them in the game, and let's let them score. Let's let them play." I don't think we're going to see much of them in the second half.
Yep,
rightfully so. But Brian Kelly, I feel we were never in games like this. We've had literally 3 games this year that I feel like we never had in the Brian Kelly era, where he could have played a bunch of people but never did.
The only time where I think that really was the case was in 2019, when we played New Mexico and Bowling Green, right? And we just curb stomped them, as we should have. This year feels a lot like that, in the sense that we should smoke Central Michigan the way that Brian Kelly did in the 2019 years. But we'll see how it goes. But at the same time, it's like, you got to be smart. You got to save these guys for the Ohio State game, because that's just coming up next week. So.
Yeah, and I love, too, to watch, right when they start pulling out, like Sam Hartman, those guys, I like to see, Angeli get reps with the first team line, or, so they get to, it's not just like, hey, wholesale, you're playing with all walk-on Steve. It's like, it's competitive. They get to see what he's made of. So, yeah, I don't think there's going to be, I think tomorrow or Saturdays, a lot of people are going to play. I think that's going to be really good. I think, like you said, the goal is going to be, let's get out of here healthy and ready for a rock fight.
Yeah.
Come that 2 weeks from now.
I agree. No complaint here, and certainly there shouldn't be any doubt over Notre Dame's abilities, or even the body of work Notre Dame has put together the previous 3 games. Now, grant they're kind of quote unquote 1 game ahead of most of their opponents this season, specifically Central Michigan. But right now, if I just look at scoring margin, Central Michigan is actually a minus 10.5 on average over the season. But then you got Notre Dame, who is averaging 37.7 points of margin over their opponents, 47.7
That's
minus.
good, right?
Yeah, that is very good, right? National champions on average are 27.2, and we're exceeding that by 10 points. Now, granted, it's early in the season, so we haven't played, some of the quote unquote tougher games. So we'll see how that goes. But what's really cool about this game is, look, we played 3 games, and if I really want to make people go, huh? We've played a quarter of the regular season. That's depressing to hear, So, and again, so that's why savor the Central Michigan game. Don't overlook it. Enjoy it. Live it up as much as you possibly can, because you'll never give it back. So just enjoy it. But
analyze the heck out of it. Have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame is again, per my sources, Notre Dame is second in the country in total touchdowns. Again, they played 1 more game than most other teams, but still, the numbers are what they are today. They have 20 total touchdowns. They're ranked second in the country. We're second in passing touchdowns, the second most important stat, and we're 12th in scoring offense. All 3 of those, the top 3 offensive stats, we're better right now on average than the national championship average, which is cool. Then you go further down the list, we're ranked 7th in total defense. We're 5th in rushing touchdowns, which is really cool. So, I mean, Notre Dame's doing a lot of good things here. And there's only a handful of stats that on average Central Michigan is, quote, better than Notre Dame. Quote, rushing defense and sacks per game and stuff. And if there's really anything that would potentially give me concern, it's our defensive front, which is, I'm glad why you, Uncle June here, are on, because since you played the 0, the nose guard, something about, defensive line play. Is this something where we anticipated this to be a factor this year with all the departures last year? Or is this a coaching problem? Or is this is just not what this defense is, Justin? Oh, maybe you got pressed.
I'm sorry, I forgot to hit unmute.
That's okay.
It looks different, There's no Foskey. There's no Adamiolas, But I will say that, I feel like I have to. I think I need a PFF membership. The Havoc rate, I think, is actually doing okay. I think they're getting some pressure, but it just looks different because we're used to having big 7 screaming off the edge and a little bit of push up in the middle. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you who's really surprised me this year was Howard Cross. I mean, everyone wants to dismiss him because he's not 6'5", 330,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, that guy is so quick off the ball. And I can tell you, as someone who's played on the nose or on the 0 and played center, there's nothing worse than having a guy like that right on your grill, who's fast. He makes your life hell, So to answer your question, I think that the defensive line will get better and better as the year goes, and then it will get a little bit more athletic as we get some of these young guys in, but I think it just looks a lot different. When you have a guy like Foskey, he commands so much attention.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not like apples to apples,
Yeah. Truth or a lie, of all the sacks we've had this year, does anyone have more than 1?
I would have said, I think like 2 people have 1. I don't even know. I feel
Yeah.
like how many sacks do we even have?
According to my source, we have 4 total sacks over 3 games, so it's not very good. Now that's not the worst stat. Josh Burnham actually has 2 tackles for loss, and then you've got about 10 to 11 other guys that all have a tackle for loss. My problem is our quote-unquote worst stat right now is on the defense. It's tackles for loss per game. We're averaging 4.3, which on the surface doesn't sound bad, but Central Michigan right now is averaging 5. National champions average over 7. So we're clearly behind the 8 ball here, and again, maybe that's a function of who departed, what's left in the cupboard, or a defensive scheme. And it's like, look, we need to rely on linebackers staying assignment true and having our defensive linemen run more of a contained situation rather than predator goes sick 'em boy kind of situation where, you know, you have a lane and an assignment that you need to stay forward. A quarterback, you know, dancing around the backfield is not a loss per se. You know, that's quote unquote okay. That's a fight another day. Keep him uncomfortable. Don't let him scramble kind of scenario. Maybe that's
in
out.
2 of our games we've played that too. Navy is a team that you're not going to really get a lot of chances. And North Carolina State, they did a really good job of keeping. His name escapes me. I don't know why. I loved him as a
Armstrong,
QB, but they kept him in check.
Yeah, it got to the point where I've started to try to pay attention to what our linemen on both defense or offense, depending on, you know, whether we have the ball or not. Watching our D line, and one of the plays I was really happy I watched was a third and long after we had gotten after Hartman had fumbled the ball and turned it over in our own, you know, red zone, and then the defense had 2 huge stops, and then I was watching that we had an 8-man drop. We just rushed 3 guys, and I was watching our linebackers on our D line. Linebackers, you know, there was a receiver or fullback or somebody that ran out. So the guy in the end, you know, picked him up and stayed with him, and then everyone else just stayed home and covered the middle of the field. And it was a real beautiful sight to see of our guys just staying assignment true. It's not sexy. It's not flashy. It's not going to make any highlight reel. And quite frankly, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with linebackers staying home, you know, doing your job, minding your P's and Q's, and then the 3-man rush that we had, again, it's not, you're not being a bulldozer and mad dog trucking somebody and then making the sack, as much as we would love that. You know, it's nice that our guys are embracing their role and doing it, quite frankly, well, because what happened is they didn't get the conversion. They missed their field goal. And I think that was really the last chance, quote unquote, the NC State had in that game on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you know, credit to the personnel, credit to the coaching. I mean, this team just looks different to me. I mean, they just sort of do things right. The penalties, I hate complaining about officiating. It was terrible on Saturday. It was brutal.
I thought so too, and I made the comment in the post-game show that it's one of those things where it's like I don't track penalties anymore, that and time of possession, just because I didn't see it as being statistically significant. Now that doesn't mean that it can't be detrimental or impactful or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying on average, it's something that you just have to deal with. It's part of the game. And it's like you have to just be a better team to not allow something like penalties or whatnot to get in your way. There's always going to be the situation where, you know, you got a Benjamin Morrison situation where, you know, he's just fed up with the receiver who's guarding him and talking trash and whatever. And at some point you just got to defend yourself, or, you know, just tell them to buzz off, and you just kind of push each other, whatever, and then the ref sees it and you get penalized with the flag. Fine. Those situations, though I don't like, I'm not going to freak out over. Same way going, with reflecting to the rest of the game, a lot of situations didn't go our way. We just have to be better than that and have the mental stability, toughness, what have you, to not allow a ref call, what have you, dictate the outcome of the game. We should be above and beyond better than the refs. And that's just kind of my thought on all that. Is it fair? No. Again, they're there to regulate the rules of the game. But most of the time, I'd say 9 out of 10 times, the refs are doing a halfway decent job with that. We tend to raise our voices when, we lose or we're not looking good or whatever. And I just think it's something you just have to deal with and something you just have to embrace. So, well, Justin, I see it says you're connecting. Maybe I talked too long, and that was pretty much it. Or you guys just got hit with a solar flare there. Who knows? Or it was like my network at work today. All of a sudden just crapped out, and it's like, okay, time to go home. All right. Well, Justin Cates, if you want to come back on, you're always welcome to jump on at Justin Cates. I see Lynch here. We'll invite you to speak if you so wish. But prior to jumping over to Mr. Jason Lynch, just a quick public service announcement per se. Nothing too wild, but the game this week is on. That's right. The game's on Peacock. Don't forget. So make sure you have that set up on your phone, set up that on your, dish or cable or, whatever you got. Antenna will not work. Okay. You got to get it. Right. Go over to your grandma's house, things that everyone's going to complain about. Just go over there, get it sorted, spend the $5, right? Look at your closet. How much Notre Dame shit do you own? How much have you spent on Notre Dame shit? You can afford Peacock for 1 week. Lynch, welcome back to the Fighting Irish Faithful Show. At Lynch Mob, ND. Where you at, man? You're on mute. Maybe you're just listening. Alright, you're just listening. But yeah, the game's on Peacock, so... I thought about this earlier, and I predicted that this was going to be the game that would happen. I did not think that NBC Notre Dame would make the Tennessee State game, A, first home game, and B, first game against a historical black college. I did not think that would not be on normal, over the normal airwaves with regard to NBC. A team like Central Michigan, who, we've played once or twice before, and, really what is this historical significance of this? No, the Tennessee State game has, I think, a little more gravity given the historical nature of Tennessee State itself. And, again, first time playing an FCS team. So we'll see how the game goes. Hopefully people don't lose their connection too much watching it on Peacock, but at the same time, in theory, that should also allow you to watch the replay very, very easily on your phone. If you're sitting up in bed or whatever, got insomnia, and this podcast just quite frankly isn't doing it for you because it's too exciting. I don't know. Lynch, you there?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yo! Thanks for joining us this evening.
Yeah, got on a little bit late. Everybody's already gone, I guess.
Well, it is what it is. Yeah, it's early morning, and I imagine this will be one of our shorter podcasts, unless all of a sudden we get a crap ton of people from the West Coast on. But that just doesn't seem likely on a Tuesday against Central Michigan. I mean, come on,
Right. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's going to be a good game. Another chance at, as Red Snapper said, assignment football.
Yep. Do you have a score prediction per se? I mean, let's just cut through the fat. You know, I mean, other than Notre Dame perfecting their own craft or doing well on their own merit, is there something that they have to look out for, or just not get in their own way?
I think it's going to be just a little bit of not get in their own way. I think the score will be, I don't know. It may not be a huge score. We may be up comfortably enough to put in some, 2s and 3s to not get a huge score. But
I mean, that's my hope. Put in the 2s and 3s.
Yes, because I think we'll, at some point we may need a break for somebody.
No doubt. No, you got to get those reps in for Angeli or whomever. So.
Yes, that's what we've got outside of practice.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we don't have a huge statistical piece per se, and it's not necessarily related to the Chippewas, just because, quite frankly, Notre Dame should dominate them. The top statistics were better. There's only a handful that they're better, but that might be a function of the noise of the limited sample size of 2 games that they have.
Right.
But what I did see on Twitter this week, and this will be the Twitter shout out, it's going to the Four Horsemen pod, so thank you, Four Horsemen pod. They had an interesting tweet about Sam Hartman in his first 3 games versus other quarterbacks in their first 3 games. Now, they were looking pretty much at total yards thrown and completion percentage, and I'm pretty sure that was it. Maybe there was 1 or 2 more stats, but nothing that really showed great significance that, in my mind, really proved is Hartman the best. Now, not that I had doubts or anything. I'm not Thomas here from the Gospels, doubting, his brothers and,
Right.
I will believe it that Notre Dame is this great when I put my fingers in the Virgin's hand and hand it, that's not what's happening here. But I wanted to compare, how many quarterbacks did I look at? 1, 2, 3. I looked at 9 quarterbacks from Hartman all the way back to Dane Christ. Sam Hartman, Drew Pine, Jack Cohn, Ian Book, Brandon Wimbush, Deshaun Kaiser, Everett Golson, Tommy Reese, and Dane Christ. Of these quarterbacks, I looked at the first 3 games they played when they were starters. Now, the one guy I didn't look at was Malik Zaire, because technically he didn't finish the game against Virginia. Kaiser had to come in. But I also don't count the Virginia game for Kaiser either. I start the Kaiser game with Georgia Tech that season. Anyway, I wanted to look at what was the win percentage of said quarterback, their completion percentage, the total number of touchdowns they threw in their first 3 games as the starter, and then the last stat, which I think is the most important, is attempts per touchdown. What is your efficiency at quarterback? The second most important stat is total touchdowns, especially in the passing game, so passing touchdowns. But if you're chucking the ball 50 times a game and you're only getting, 2-3 touchdowns, that doesn't impress me much. But how impactful are you when the number of attempts you throw on average per touchdown is a low number, right? That's what I'm talking about. So and damn it, I'm just knocking someone out of their car there with that one. Lynch, what's your thought here? Well, spoiler alert, Hartman's the best. Right. Of these guys, who do you think is best in completion percentage behind Sam Hartman? in their first 3 games as a starter.
First 3 as a starter.
Christ, Reese, Golson, Kaiser, Wimbush, Book, Cone, or Pine.
I would almost say Reese, but I might lean toward Golson maybe a little bit more.
Sure. And that's interesting with Golson. You would think that it was higher, but keep in mind that was in 2012, and our offense was pretty sluggish there. So it's not Golson, and it's not Reese. Believe it or not, it's Drew Pine. In Pine's first 3 games, Cal, North Carolina as a starter, and BYU last year, his completion percentage was 74%. Not bad.
No, not a horrible stat.
Now, here's another way to look at this. Most of these guys all have 100%. 3 wins in a row. Their first 3 games they played. Name the one quarterback who has the worst win percentage. Basically, he only won 1 out of 3 games in his first piece as being a starter.
Would it be Christ?
It is Chris. He was 1 of 3. Beat Purdue, then lost to Michigan and Michigan State.
Yep.
The other 2 guys that are not at 100% are Deshaun Kaiser, because he lost to Clemson his 3rd game, and Wimbush, who lost to Georgia in his 2nd game. But everybody else won all 3 games in their first 3 starts. And Reese, I think, had the biggest challenge per se by facing off against, now Army's not too crazy, but Army, Utah, and USC, which is interesting. But everybody else is 100%. Book, Cone, Pine, Hartman, right? Everybody else is 100%.
Yeah.
Now, total touchdowns in those first 3 games. Who has the most?
Total in the first 3 outside of Hartman?
I'll give you a hint. Well, it can include Hartman. Said quarterback has 10. And then 3 individuals are tied with 8.
I would say it would be Hartman.
Hartman has 10 touchdowns that he has thrown this season. There are 3 guys who threw 8 touchdowns, and it is the last 3 guys, Pine, Cone, and Book, in their first 3 games as a starter. Now, granted, Books were in 2018 when he replaced Wimbush as the starter in the Vandy game.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. The first 3 games, Book had 8 touchdowns, so did Cone, so did Pine. The worst on this list, you know who that is? Who had the least number of touchdowns in his first 3 games?
The least amount of touchdowns in the first 3. Would it be Reese?
Nope. It's Wimbush.
Wimbush.
He had 2. Yeah. Which makes a little sense because that was 2017 and, we were a very run-heavy type of team. Okay. Right. But, yeah, you read that stuff and you're like, whoa, that ain't good, as far as effectivity and the ability to, put up points on the scoreboard, right?
Right.
Okay, the most important piece, attempts per touchdown, the efficiency of the quarterback. Who is the best?
I would say probably Hartman.
It's Hartman. Above and beyond by far. We'll get to his number in a minute. Who is the number 2? This surprised me as far as efficient quarterbacks. The hint is this individual has an attempts to touchdown ratio in his first 3 games of 10.7. which, believe it or not, is actually better than national champion average. Grant, it's 3 games. But who is the quarterback that has the best attempt to touchdown ratio, a value of 10.7 in their first 3 games? Not Hartman.
Not Hartman. Would it be Pine?
It is Drew Pine.
That's what I was thinking.
This is the craziest shit here. We'll jump to Hartman in a second. Drew Pine in his first 3 games, as much as we did give him criticism, you know, and maybe some of that is attributed to Reese. I don't know. Pine was 100% win percentage in his first 3 games as starter.
Right. His
completion percentage was 74%. Number 2 behind him was Ian Book. After that was Kaiser at 65%. Cone was 62%, but whatever. Pine was second in touchdowns, tied with Cone and Book, throwing 8 passing touchdowns. His attempts to touchdown ratio was very efficient. It was 10.7. Next best was Jack Cone, 13.6 attempts per touchdown. Now the crazy fucking thing here is Hartman. Hartman, granted, let's step back for a second. If it's your first 3 games, you tend to be early, quote unquote, in your career. You tend not to be a transfer. But even then, and Grant, you know, I'm comparing, you know, Cone to Sam Hartman. But even then, you know, Cone is he's got 3 guys that are better than him in attempts to touchdown ratio. Pine with 10.7. I fucked that up. I was looking at Book. Cone is third. Cone is 13.6. Book was 14.3, and Reese was 14.2. The worst, actually, in attempts to touchdown ratio was Wimbush, believe it or not. Okay. He only threw 2 touchdowns, passing touchdowns, and his attempts to touchdown ratio was 47. Not good. After that, the next worst guy is actually Everett Golson, which is really sad. But again, look at that offense in 2012, and you know the passing touchdowns was not gonna, you know, blow anyone's skirt off, quite frankly.
Right.
But Hartman's attempts to touchdown ratio is less than 10. It's less than 9. It's less than 8. It's less than 7. 6.4. For every 6 to 7 passes that he throws, that's not completions. That's just throwing the ball out there. Every 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7 is a fucking touchdown.
Pretty impressive.
I'm Scrooge McDuck with this shit, okay?
Right.
It's fucking amazing. Now, what I should have done with this analysis is compare Hartman to, you know, other guys, other Heisman guys, and I think I have that in aggregate. Let's see, national champions, Heismans. Let's see here. Take me a minute to find it. Attempt to touchdown ratio. Oh yeah, it's on average is better than the Heisman. The Heisman quarterback has an attempts to touchdown ratio of 12.8. National champions 12.7. There's only a handful of guys that are better than top 10. Stenson Bennett was 9.9. Mac Jones 9.8. Joe Burrow was actually 8.8. Tua Tagovailoa 8.2. Kyler Murray 8.9. Attempts to touchdown ratio. Hartman currently is better than all of them. 6.4. It's not even fucking close. It's not even close. Now, does that continue on throughout the season? I don't know. Most likely not. And also most likely the Heisman committee, playoff committee, what have you, won't pay attention to that because, well, they're stupid. So.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to share that, and I want to give the Twitter shout out to Four Horsemen Pod because they had posted something, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they were comparing Hartman to other quarterbacks in their first 3 games, and I thought they had scratched the surface, and I knew that there was additional information surrounding scoring and surrounding efficiency that they didn't quite get. They got the completion percentage, but completions are one thing, touchdowns are something completely else. And at the end of the day, we want to win the game, and you win the game by catching the ball, running across the goal line. That's how you win games. So I don't care about yards. I don't care about passing yards. I mean, I do, but, and we keep track of it, don't get me wrong, but we're not going to put a crazy amount of stock in it. We're more interested on this podcast of what helps us win. Okay, this is how you score touchdowns. This is how, you make the team better. And that's where we're at. So
I think with Drew Pine, I'd like to see what his completion percentage was, and not only that, to anybody other than Michael Mayer.
That would take a lot of effort to go through all his plays to understand, how that completion percentage goes up or down, depending on his, particular skill positions, particular individuals, etc. I think that we'll just have to wait and see if Hartman can maintain this same level of excellence. I don't know.
Right. It would be impressive if he does.
It really would. And, whether or not, that continues or whether or not, we hit some speed bumps here. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm more interested in is not so much the statistics that Sam Hartman is putting up. I'm more interested in how Notre Dame as a team is doing. I am more interested in how much rushing production the team is putting up. How are they able to use, a little bit of manufacturing know-how when they go out there to put a game plan together. Again, we'll see how things are as we move on in this season. Can we maintain an attempt to touchdown ratio of 6.4 against other teams? I hope so.
I hope so. It's going to be tough.
I hope so. I mean, look, he's got 10 touchdowns in 3 games. So it's about, 3 1/3 per game?
Yeah.
Multiply that sucker by 14. All right?
Yeah.
I mean, might as well, right? 3.3,
Yeah.
10, 14. Oh, it helps if you hit an equal sign here on the spreadsheet. What the hell? 46. All right.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
It's not only is it a lot, but national champions on average put up 41.4 passing touchdowns. And that's not even ranked number 1. They're ranked 8th in the country, putting up 41 touchdowns. Again, granted, that's over a 14-game season. But again, we're going to compare Notre Dame to national champions. Because, well, why not? We're Notre Dame. That's what we should do.
That's right.
Because that is the ultimate goal.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So, toast is to Sam Hartman. Keep it up. You have our support. We're very happy you're here. And I won't name names here, but some people continue to defend Brian Kelly, quite frankly, and we don't have to get into that whole piece. But I just made the simple observation, comment, what have you, to said individual, and I said, do you honestly think that if Brian Kelly was still at Notre Dame, that Hartman would have transferred here? Do you really think that Kelly, like Like, look at it another way. Kelly is, quote, free from Notre Dame. He can go to LSU and get pretty much anyone he wants.
Right.
You could have gotten Hartman, but you didn't.
No, I don't think he would have went.
No, well, that's my thought too. I think that Hartman sees something that he can get out of Notre Dame, i.e. a grad degree or whatever, or in, some more spotlight exposure, whatnot for NFL draft stock. I don't know. He can be maybe big fish, small pond. And if you think that 11th ranked talent is a small pond, okay, fine. That's great. We'll take him anyway, just because A, you want to be here, and B, you're being productive. So, and if I go to, C, he's carrying himself well. He's a man of integrity and courage as far as everything I've seen. So, again, I don't know him personally. I don't know how he is in real life. But that being said, he's integrating well in Notre Dame student body life, and he's making a very positive name for himself.
Yeah, I think so, and I think he's extremely well liked by the players.
Sure, he's a captain for a reason, right?
Right. From just what we see, on the Notre Dame media, it's all positive stuff. But I think that's just the way it is. I think he is that guy that is genuine, and is really that guy that is somebody that's came in this year and has gotten that tight knit with the players.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Lynch, that's pretty much all I've got on this show tonight. It's a little shorter of a podcast. It's also late. Or I got to get up early, and Notre Dame versus the Chippewas. Notre Dame should kill them. We don't need to go line by line in the stats here. We hit some of the high points, and I wanted to compare Hartman in his first 3 games to all these other quarterbacks in their first 3 games. So just to kind of gauge his status, his progress. And, we can eliminate 3 of these guys because 3 of them weren't 100%. It'd be interesting, 4 games, 5 games, what have you. Where is their win percentage as time goes on, and their productivity numbers, etc. I think Hartman is, quote unquote, currently in first place if you go through this information, and then he will maintain first place with much confidence as we progress through the season.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a great fit in the system for sure.
Indeed. No concern about that. But yeah, Notre Dame's looking good. Not a whole lot else to comment on. We're a little over an hour in. I think we're gonna call it good. Any other thoughts here, Lynch?
No. I've just gotta pack in the morning and get ready to head up tomorrow afternoon.
Fantastic. Well, have a safe journey. And
yes,
we're gonna move forward here with so again, games on Peacock. Check it out. We will not have a post-game show on Fighting Irish Faithful. You guys will have to settle for some lesser post-game show to listen to that's based off of a lot more opinion and less on fact.
You can get Hendrix's post-game rant.
That's right. Yeah, check out Dos Leprechauns on Facebook for all our Facebook people. Hendrix has been doing a rant / reflection of the game, kind of immediate reaction, not nearly as prepared as this show per se from a data and analytics, but that's okay. It's kind of the way he wants to keep it and kind of how we want to keep this show. But we're happy to be part of Dos Leprechauns Media, Fighting Irish Faithful show in season 4, episode 12. That's all we got for you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and YouTube. Have a nice day, a good week. Finish up the week strong, and give the Chippewas some hell. Go Irish, and I will see you all in 1 week. Cheers, and go Irish.
throws the ball. It is caught. Reggie Brooks. Reggie Brooks got it for a two-pointer, and Notre Dame is out in front, 17-16. Lost the ball. The pass is batted down. It's batted down by Carroll.
It's caught by Somoza. Inside the 20, inside the 10. He's going in. Notre Dame has scored. Dawson throws, open receiver in the end zone. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Somehow, the Irish did it.
Out of the pack, 30, 35. Goodbye, baby. At the 50, the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10. 5-5 rocket touchdown, Irish.
Tyree! Whoa! Can he get there? Tyree at the 30, 20, 10. Touchdown, Notre Dame! Woo! 98 big ones. Zibikowski looking for a block. Cuts to the right to the 40. Gets a block. Gets to the 45, 50. Up to the 45, 40, 30. One man to beat. 20, 15, 10. He's down to the 5. Touchdown, Irish.